All right. So I'll get right into it. My name is Brian. Now, yeah, my name is Brian Namanya, and I'm the founder and CEO at Tubayo. Uh, so as I was saying earlier, this is a topic that me being curious about the opportunities with online business is what really pushed me to get started. Um, Founding a company and later building it what it is today. So I'll just share my background for you to get context and a person.
Brian, I think we're still having a bit of trouble with your connection. Colleagues, just give us a moment. Let's try to just connect Brian, right? I think he's been jumping a bit on and off. Right, friends, we were trying to just get Brian back online. His connection has failed us a couple of times, but in a moment we'll try to resolve that and get on our way. Yeah, but a big thank you to everyone who has joined. We are always excited to have you here. Today's conversation is about techpreneurship. A number of young people are involved in it. Some people are kind of don't see clearly where that opportunity is, and Brian is one of the young people who have kind of entered this space, created service which is being used, and really what we want to hear from him is his story, his journey, and how we can be able to pick a thing or two from him and be able to win. We're just trying to get him connected again.
Yeah, I've gotten back. Let me know if this is fine. I'm now using my mobile internet.
That's much better, actually.
Okay. Let's run with it. Thank you so much for being patient. Great. So I was sharing how this all started. And for me, when I look back, my childhood, I remember in my Form 1 when I joined military school, that was the first time I was introduced to computers, and all I had seen were there were cathode ray tubes, the ones with the big back. But here I find these nice LCD, LED, computers. And the thing that stood out then was, it was really around the time that Facebook had just launched. And so we're always excited to go to the computer lab just to get onto Facebook. And I think there was pennypal.com as well, another one where you would connect with, whites and have pennypals. But the one that really worked was Facebook. And during that time, I remember the lab attendant, there was a lady that I talked to about, wondering what it takes to develop such a website, because like Facebook took everyone's attention during that time. And she told me I can build a website. I think she had just learned like basic HTML, just putting a domain and all. So I tell her, how about we build our own Facebook, here in Uganda, that can connect to our own schools? Because the thing about Facebook then was majorly like whites and like the Harvards, just as the Facebook story. Even for us, the early guys that joined back then in 2006, it almost felt like it was an international platform for just the Western schools. And so I saw an opportunity at us creating one that fitted into the local context. So she tells me, come up with a plan and then we'll build it. And I remember going back to my room and sketching it out on paper. And after like a week, the next class, I take it back to her. She tells me she will do it, but she never got to do it. I think now that I have perspective on what it takes to build these platforms, there was no way she was going to build it back then. It required really a lot. So that is the one memory I remember in inter school. Then later I joined King's College Budo for my A-level. And for me, now what King's College sparked was the entrepreneurship in me. Because I remember interacting with my classmates and finding out about their backgrounds, their families. These are guys that owned, hotels, owned hospitals, the famous one, Case Clinic. And I think until A-level, I thought these big corporations were owned by either government or NGOs. I had never imagined there are individuals that owned real businesses that served community. So for me, being in class with these students from these interesting backgrounds really sparked and challenged me of, wait a minute, how about you can also do something like this in the future. So those were the two main roles that the two schools built. And then when I joined campus, that's when my entrepreneurship journey begins. Quickly, I joined my dad, who had an office at Nasa Road. But when I joined my dad, it was really hard to figure out where I could help, trying to understand where is the business here. Yeah. So with my dad, I later realized that he was in the tender business. All he did was get pre-qualified with different organizations. Today he's supplying Porsche, tomorrow it's uniforms, the next day it is printing. Yes, so that was the kind of business he was doing. If you walked into the office, you would hardly, figure it out. But because I'd been around him, I was drawn more on the easy business, which was the printing and branding, because it was basically art. So I joined in on that function and I started branding. From there, I started, doing these small gigs while at campus, going back to my high school to brand for them, and I would make money. And quickly, I had more money than the guys I was studying with at campus. Well, it's not entirely factual, but like I had more money compared to the average university student. So I was able to buy a smartphone. And now, even while at campus, I jumped onto the smartphone wave faster than most of my colleagues. Because I remember in class, we're probably like 3 people with a smartphone. Most of them still had the button phones. So I get onto that smartphone. That is a phone I bought from the money I was doing while doing printing and branding for different people. And now the smartphone meant I joined other social media platforms like Instagram, which also had just launched, I think a year or two around. So I joined Instagram, I started taking selfies, posting. And I remember where I was sparked onto also thinking the same thing. On Instagram, there's this trend where when you take a nice picture, you tag the big popular pages so that they're able to feature you. So I would tag this, I would take the pictures, tag like men in Africa, East African men to look out for, and I would tag them for a chance to be featured, but none of them would feature me. And then I asked myself, but these pages, why are they feeling so big? They're not any complicated. I could start one probably for Uganda, because I had noticed Uganda didn't have one. And so I remember starting one of those first Ugandan pages on Instagram, and it was called IG Uganda. Until recently, it was suspended because it wasn't very active. So we're just trying to regain it. But IG Uganda was one of those first pages that was, put out there to promote Ugandans on Instagram. So I started it with the goal of posting myself, but I just ended up posting others. And whenever I would post them, they would get to my inbox and tell me, oh, thank you for sharing my picture. I felt really good about it. So things like that. And I noticed people really loved, that love that we're getting off social media. And back then, reposting was such a big thing. I think the only media houses that reposted or shared people were mainly like newspapers, you know? So having a social media platform that could spot you out, share you, say something about your story was something that really impacted so many people. And I remember getting those messages and it felt like I was onto something. So fast forward, I'm on Instagram, just running a normal social media platform. It grows to 10,000 followers in such a short time. Uh, yeah, so as I'm doing branding, we then get done with school. I am still doing NASA Road. I learned everything around printing and branding, things to do with receipts, business cards, and all. So now, while in school, I was earning enough money because my colleagues were not earning anything at all. But now that we're out of school, my colleagues then join the top firms, they join these ministries, and very quickly, they start to stand out. They are getting loans to get cars, and I'm still, doing the walking and all. So right there, the work that I was doing started to frustrate me. And it was very simple because I would do work for the whole day and I only get paid like 50K. So you can imagine like business cards, you do the design, you take a sample, you return, the person asks for only 100 or 200 cards and you're only going to make 50. And quickly I could question that this is not efficient. I can't use the entire day to just earn 50 or 30K. So I started getting frustrated by the business I was doing. And then I remember one day I was just messing around on the internet. I searched, but what are the rich people doing in the world? I figured, or I found out that the top 5 were all doing something with the internet. These were the Zuckerbergs, the Amazons, the Alibabas, and my thinking was so simple. I just thought to myself, if I do what these people are doing, I am going to be one of them. And that's all I thought about. And then later, as I got into it, I started reading up on these personalities. um, uh, when I learned about the story of Jack Ma, I was so inspired. And I think for me, what really got me was just putting myself in Jack Ma's shoes. These are people who have had almost a background that we can relate to. Jack Ma talked about how at a certain point he was earning just $20 the entire month. This is as much as most Ugandans earn today, in fact, so many of them even earn way more than that. Jack Ma talked about how he used the internet to basically globalize businesses of China to the world. So I learned about this story. And then I also learned about the story of Steve Jobs, an adopted child, later realizing those were not his real parents, what that must have done to him. But of course, they loved him and they chose him and took care of him. But the other thing about Steve Jobs, he dropped out of school. And I'm like, well, so many Ugandans have this experience and all. But he went ahead to build such a great company, Apple. So for me, looking at those stories and those personalities just encouraged me that, okay, it's the same conditions you're having here in Uganda. And so if they did it, you can also do it. So I then keep listening in more. And I remember this thing that Jack Ma mentioned that gave me the confidence with the internet. He talked about how he's able to serve over 500 million customers in a month. And when I compared that to my branding, I was like, I'm doing only one person per day. Sometimes there are no customers. And I'm like, imagine the best case scenario that all these people in Kampala walk into my office for branding, which was a small room that was about 2.5 meters, squared. I'm like, this room can't serve more than 20 people, would suffocate in here. So the most I can do per a given time is probably going to be like 10. And me thinking about how the internet has no limit to how many people it can serve at a given time, for me, that was just common. It was just so logical that the internet has a lot more capabilities than like physical kind of businesses. So during that research, first I figured out that that's what the rich people are doing. Now, two, I've also realized that it is so impactful. You can serve hundreds and hundreds of millions of people easily. And I think the other thing that also that also tickled my mind was learning about the 11/11. It's a big sales day by Alibaba, where in one day they transact over $30 billion and there's no fraud. And I'm like, back then, I think the economy of Uganda was about 26 billion. So I'm like, you mean systems can transact all of this, no fraud, properly accounted for in one day, and yet we can have the entire year to run an economy and there's still some, you know? So for me, that really showed me the capabilities of what internet and these systems can do. So I was very motivated and I knew that I had to start an online business. So fast forward, of course, I started thinking to myself, what kind of business will I start? Now, with my economics background, I research on the fastest growing industries. And my thinking here was simple. If I get into an industry that is rising so fast, I'll just ride with that tide. I think in computational strategy, if you go where it's easy, it's going to be easy. So I searched what the fastest growing industries were, and travel came up number one. That was around 2018. So I make a decision that I'll start an online business in travel. So, and the value that we're going to give here was simple. I looked when I saw the word travel industry, quickly I reflected on how so many of us had not traveled in a while. And the last time most of us had traveled was during high school, during the geography trips. So I knew that people still want to travel. And I remember the excitement we used to have whenever we're told that there's a trip coming up. You'd almost be at your best behavior with the teachers. You'd tell your parents to pay on time so that you don't miss this trip. So I questioned and asked myself, then how come we stop to travel? And for me, I came to three main challenges. One, there was no selection for people to find, or activities to inspire people to make them want to travel. Two, the trips that were out there that we all saw were mainly targeted towards the foreigners. And then three, it was simply a very expensive venture. If you wanted to travel, you need to have saved maybe 3, 4, like $1 million and above. And so many people are not inspired to travel. And I knew that if I create a platform that can get a big selection of activities around the country, cut out the agents and middlemen so that we have a good price, and then we make it accessible online, whereby people can conveniently book. I thought to myself that if we can pull this off, then we have a business. And the whole idea and excitement was the fact that if we pull off an online platform, we would be able to serve everyone in Uganda. So that's the business model, the business plan. Now the naming of the business, it was also like a very simple one. Um, uh, while thinking about the future and having grown a successful business, I thought to myself, what kind of business would it be called? And for me, we started brainstorming the names, and that's how we came up with the Tubayo name. This was simply to mean we'll be everywhere, and that's exactly what the internet is. The internet is everywhere. So I remember the first name idea was Tubayo Buliwamu, but having two names didn't seem smart to me. And now I used my branding background, to come up with a simple short name that everyone could easily remember. And so that's how we came up with the Tubayo name. And why we liked it so much was because it was such a local name that in future, and we are seated on a round table, and they asked the person from Tesla to come up, the one from Amazon. We knew that they would introduce us as the people from Tubayo, and that would have such an African identity about it that would make sense to the people. So I have the business model now, the business, I have the name now. We start to execute. Now the money to get started came from savings that I got from working in such a short time with Taxify. So Taxify had just launched, and I had gone to visit my little brother at Nana Hostel. As I was leaving, he tells me, "Don't use taxis, use the border borders." So I was curious. I'm like, "But border borders are expensive." He tells me, "No, Taxify has this promotion where it's 1,000 to anywhere you're going around town." So I quickly get in on Taxify. I reach park, I ask the border guy, and the border guy takes the 1K. I was ready in case he demanded more money, but he takes the 1K and asks him, "How have you done it for you? Why are you in this business and earning very little?" He then tells me how Taxify was paying him the money, the fare that I was supposed to pay. So if the journey was supposed to be 3K, I pay the 1K, but he also gets the 3K. So it's a win for him, it's a win for the customer. Quickly, I see a marketing opportunity because of my Instagram page. I look up Taxify offices, I go to them the following day. I talk to them about how I want to get so many people to use Taxify. And then they mentioned to me that, wait a minute, Taxify, we have so many customers. The challenge they was facing was they had very few borders. In my mind, I'm even confused because Kampala is full of borders. So I think to myself, I'm like, I can get you the borders as well. He tells me, "Okay, cool. How many borders can you get us?" I make my quick math. I'm like, if a border stage has about 50 members, I need 2 stages. That is 100 in a day. If I do it over 10 days, that's 1,000. So over 30 days, I'm like, you know what? Let me just tell him I will get him the 1,000 in 30 days. So I quickly, without even leaving his office, I tell him I can get you 1,000 borders. And then he laughs. He calls the general manager. He's like, "This guy can get us 1,000 borders. Remember, I'm just young, no company." Of course, I had the idea going on, but it was all in my head. So, but I realized that this is what they wanted to achieve. So they gave me room. He tells me, "When can you get started?" I'm like, "I can get started even now." He's like, "No, you'll get started tomorrow." So I ask him about the payment. He tells me, "So your onboarding thing is not like a real thing here. What I will do for you is I'll get you a commission per border." I'm like, "Okay, cool, that's fine. How much are you going to pay per border?" He tells me 30,000 per border. And in my mind, I see cash. I'm like, "You mean if I get my 1,000?" So I started calculating in my mind. If I get 1,000 borders in 10 days, I will have 30 million. Quickly, the following day, I just get started. I start onboarding. We're walking on the streets, stopping these borders. And for those of you who recall very well, that was the time where Taxify borders were almost taking over the entire Kampala street. Everything was turning green. So we did that quickly. I remember my first week, I onboarded about 300 borders. 200 were approved, and they paid me my 6 million. That was more money than I had earned in branding. So quickly I start a team. I get my brother to join me, my friend, and we start to onboard these borders. And before you know it, we hit the 1,000 mark. We're making so much money, but this is not something the management liked. So I remember we fell out with management because office would open at 11 a.m. and close at 3 p.m. And yet the borders are expected to work 24 hours. So most of the time we're doing customer servicing. So I thought to myself, how about I open up a customer service center where these border guys can just come for, help in anything they need. So I rent a house in Bugolobi, pay 6 months for it, a whole house with the compound. So borders start flocking in. And me, my idea was to prove the customer service center concept, thinking if it works well, I take it to Taxify, they would reimburse the money. So I do that. And the idea was when the border guys are happy, they're going to keep referring their friends, which means more earnings for me. But they get to learn about it in about 3 days. That is a Taxify customer service center. What? They call me to office. They tell me to close that because it's not policy. I didn't ask for any permission. And so, but during that time, there was already that beef that had been built simply because I was in sales and I was earning a lot more money. So I thought to myself, why am I really struggling with this? How about I go and start my idea that I had thought about, the Tubayo business? And so I get the savings that I had and the house that I had paid for. I just hire any random tech people. I put a call for tech guys to join me to build Tubayo. We use that house, we start to work. And in about 6 months, we had no product. My rent was out. The money that I had saved was out. And that was the end of 2018. And there was nothing. But in 2019, I go back to the streets, NASA Road. But my page is active on Instagram. Just like I knew how to build IG Uganda, I started building Tubayo Travel. It started getting traction. People asking which places these are. And talking about the dream of how we are building Tubayo.com, it's going to be the Airbnb for Africa. That's how a random guy reaches out to me for internship to do the tech side. He calls me, he's from a diploma school. I think it's Saipali along Naminembe Road. He texts me and asks for an opportunity. I ignore his calls, I ignore his emails, but he was very persistent. So I gave in. And my idea was sit, share your vision with him, tell him you're going to be a big deal in future. If he wants to join in, let him join now. And the condition is there's no payment at the start because there's simply no money. And for me, it was a way to just get him to stop stressing me. So we agreed to meet up. I share that. And the boy agrees to work. I'm like, you're going to work, you understand you're going to work for free? He's like, yes, I'm going to do it. I just love this idea. I want to build a proper system. And today, that guy is the CTO of Tubayo. He's the guy that has built the entire platform. We've had to learn with him, get other guys to join in and build with him. He has built the Tubayo app. Of course, today the tech team has more people, but it's because of him coming and deciding to work for free that now the dream came alive. And in 2019, we launched the website. We started doing so many people bookings, but there were many offline because the system wasn't as functional. But later that year, what stood out in 2019 was exciting the public. I remember once we did trips to Lemara, we did trips to Kapeka, but I saw an opportunity when Uganda Airlines launched. And I told the team that I think, you know what we should do? Because we filled up these vans to Ginger, we filled up coasters, we've gone everywhere, Action Falls, we filled up buses. There was a time we had done about 300 people in 1 week. I told the team we need something more inspiring. And so the Uganda Airlines launch presented that opportunity. I told them, how about we fill up Uganda Airlines now to Mombasa? And the whole team was excited. We put branding. I went to the Uganda Airlines office. I told them, hey, we want to fill up Uganda Airlines. And for me, this was an opportunity because everyone was busy bashing Uganda Airlines, saying Ugandans can't manage an airline. It's a very hard business to run. Things like that. They will be serving Rolex, or you'll be on the flight and you hear the pilot say, Ompira Guvudeko. Things like that were going all over social media. And we thought, how about for us to make something more inspiring that people can jump in on? And so we decided Tubayo to fill up Uganda Airlines. And that got so many guys, especially my age mates and the young guys, excited about this company that wants, to do such a big thing. So we earned that trust from the public, but also we started receiving screenshots of people sharing this flyer from their WhatsApp groups. And when I reached Uganda Airlines, I tell them want to fill it up. They tell me that means it's called chartering. It's not called overbooking. I'm like, cool, whatever name it is. I ask for the fee and they tell me it's $30,000 to charter. And I felt like our hopes were shattered. But I thought to myself, how about if I simply just buy, whoever books with us, I buy a ticket. They're like, yeah, that can work. So I had to set the date far apart in order to allow allowance for marketing. And we kept doing that. And we had about 24 people go to Mombasa. And that was one of the turnaround times. That was in 2019. Now we had started growing in the public and we were making the revenues. Later that year, we got recognized by the Innovation Village, who invited us to apply for a MasterCard Foundation grant. We then got a grant of $15,000. And that came in timely because it came in just at the end of 2019 to the beginning of 2020, which was COVID year. So we used that money to build a proper platform because we had experienced how hard it was to do the manual servicing of customers, invoicing, sending a receipt and all. We knew if we built a system that was automated, we're going to solve that. So that's how we built really up to, that's 2020, 2021, we decided we're now going to take a global approach. We launched in Kenya. 2021, we launched the Tubayo Market Days. And these were really to keep building on the community and the ecosystem into the Tubayo brand. Later that year, we won Startup of the Year with UNCDF and Startup Uganda. We also got recognized with several awards. We won the most transformation company. We came #1 ahead of Sudil and Eddie Kenzo. And these are people that I've looked up to while growing, but we simply had more impact in the travel industry than Eddie Kenzo, who had the hundreds of millions of views, and Sudil, who has built hotels simply because of the internet. And this is something that we joke about with the team, that it will take Sudil about 2 years to complete an apartment block or 3 years to complete a hotel, but it will take Tubayo 3 hours to have as many rooms available for rent to the customers, simply because of the power of internet. It's almost like magic. So today you find Sudil's empire has probably been around for decades, but we probably have way more rooms than he has. So that's the power of what internet can give to a young person. It's almost like magic, when one thinks about how one can own cars that they didn't buy, like the Uber thing. You get to manage millions of cars. It was almost impossible back then for one single businessman to have a fleet of 1 million cars. So today, looking that we control the majority in accommodation listings in the country, yet we just started in 2019. And we're not only doing it in Uganda, we're doing it across the region, Rwanda, Kenya, Tanzania. The market there, the opportunity we are giving because of the internet, that we're able to support over 400 entrepreneurs every month, to transact as much money. Really, for me, it speaks into this opportunity that we saw at the very start. Yeah. So really, that's my long story. There's, of course, so many details, but those can really be got into the quick questions that we might go through. But to relate it to the topic today, which are the basic strategies, I'll just share like just a few non-conventional strategies, but the things that we've used to make it work. So one, to be successful, really, one has been you working with the team. So team has been such a great strategy because these help cover up for you. You get to do a lot more when you work with the team. And for me, how I think about teams is they're just there to help and support. Normally, you will be able to do all these things, but there will be days when you are overwhelmed, when you're off, And what happens if you're in a solo business? That means the business will be dead for that time. Normally when your momentum is lost, it's so hard to regain it. But with the team, things keep running. So for me, that's how I see how working with a team can really set you apart. And then two, relying on systems and the internet. The efficiency that comes with this is almost unreal. Yeah. So using that, you'll be a lot more efficient than any other traditional business. And at first, it will be hard to execute because the customers don't want to change. The team is used to the old ways of working. But there's one thing I normally do. I ask myself, is this the future? Will the future be about efficiency? Will the future be about quick automated systems? And that's a yes. And if it's true, then we have to lean towards the future. We'll lose short term, but we'll have gained proper confidence on where we're going long term. Then the other strategy really is tools. You are not going to outcompete someone that has great tools at their disposal. And for us, we've invested in this. This could include the machines we use. And a simple example, this could be a tech joke, but a simple one is if your company is operating on like the old i3 laptops, there's no way you're going to catch up with someone who is, working on like a Mac 2022 16 GB RAM. I see it with like people, when I go to like supervise the work and I have to wait 3 minutes for the computer to load, 5 minutes for the computer to load. So I can imagine how many 5 more minutes do these people lose the whole day. And the internet game is a game of efficiency. Every second, every minute can set you apart. Yeah. So for me, tools are such a great way of strategizing and winning. That means you have less downtime. So you have to invest in these tools that you use for your business, but constantly learning and environment. So environment really plays a good environment. What environment does, it sets a standard for you to thrive. Yeah. So get around a great environment where you can thrive. The other things off-head strategies, have something exciting. What I've seen around as businesses is either people start them to solve problems, you're starting it to create a job, to create an income for you because you have no job. You're starting it to create a problem in society, which can seem to be exciting. But I think once you've done that, you need to start looking at the exciting bit about business. Create products that you're excited, that will make you excited to wake up the following day. For example, at Tubayo, we want to launch trips to Mars. No one wants to go to Mars, right? No one is bothered about going there. But I think it's something that would be exciting if Ugandans participate, because the Americans are doing it, the Chinese are doing it, Europeans have a strategy to, get to Mars. Africa can't be left out. So those are things that excite us to keep pushing this. You need a bigger reason than just solving problems and a simple earning an income for you to have that, excitement about work. That's also one way. So at Tubayo, we've always had these targets that really get the whole team excited to work. For example, they fill up Uganda Airlines. When we say, let's have more bookings than any other travel company has done. Let's have more rooms than studio. Like very good, simple things, but really excite us to keep working. I think have been very helpful to motivate the team. I will stop here, Mr. Ronald. Don't know if there is any questions. I'm sorry I've talked for the entire hour, but this is something that means a lot. And I wanted you all to pick like this perspective and context where we come from. But I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Wow. Absolutely exciting stuff. You have certainly made our morning. You can't even believe how quickly the hour flew by. And I see many people just saying thank you. I see a couple of claps coming through. But let's just show some love to Brian. I think he has really warmed up our morning today. Brian, just listening to you made me feel much younger, very excited about what you are doing and what's possible within the country, and the process of getting an idea out of your head and transforming it into something great. So a big thank you. I know that there are a number of people who want to ask a question or two. We have some close to about 20 minutes to do that. So please come through. If you have a question to ask, please put up your hand and ask. I see, yes, very exciting. Many questions in my mind. That's Martin, yes. I see Dixon saying true, the hour has flown by very fast. That's very true, Dixon. Totally agree with you. Harriet is saying thank you. Dennis is saying great story. Thanks for sharing. One question Dennis has is, what challenges do you face in your operations? I think you'll address that. We'll take a couple of questions. So that's the first question. Brad, what challenges do you face in your operations? Dixon has asked for your contact. You could also share your Twitter handle and Instagram handle and well, the rest of your social media presence and possibly your phone contact. You can just type that into the chat box, Brian, how we can get to you. Yes, Godians says exciting and thinking out of the box. Yes, totally true. Very exciting stuff, thinking out of the box. Harriet says, thank you for the inspiring us this morning. Great. Martin says, okay, great. So there are a couple of questions coming up. I'm waiting for a couple of hands. I'll give an opportunity to people to ask some questions. Joseph says, Brian, you're a go-getter. So true, so true, so true. I see Christopher here saying, great listening to Brian. How do you leverage my business for selling personal protective equipment and automotive tools to the market? Yes, I think, yes, that's Christopher's question, is how I think he's in the personal protective gear space. So how can he leverage, I think, technology to be able to do that? Dixon, perfect. We can subscribe to the social media pages. Yes, please do follow Brian on his social media handles. Please go ahead and follow him. I see Sharifa. Thank you, Brian, for sharing. Very inspirational story. Helga says, good stuff, Brian. Thank you so much. Brian has shared his contact, his email address and his phone contact. I think he'll also share the Twitter handle and Instagram handle in a moment. Nicole also has a question. I understand research, innovation, and offering solutions to companies. Companies are always looking for solutions. And so if you are ready to offer solutions to the problem, you will get an ear. Yeah, I think Nicole agrees that many companies have problems and they're always looking for solutions. So if you have that solution, you will certainly get an ear. Great. Mark asks, how hard was raising capital to start? That's a good question, Mark. And I think we also have a question from Martin. What different types of tech business is suitable for the African continent? I think here Martin is asking, where do you see the gaps right now? I'll give Safari an opportunity to ask his question, and then I'll give Mark an opportunity to respond to those ones. Safari, over to you.
Thank you so much, Ronald. Thank you. He's a Tubayo man, very inspirational. Though, of course, I've looked at your website. The logo looks like Threads. In fact, I'm seeing that you also have a Threads account. It's a good thing. Though I expected from your presentation to see your face, to see your, what kind of services you offer at Tubayo as a, people, we need to see visuals, eh? Yeah, but on my question goes back to what you mentioned, though I came a little bit late. I found when you're speaking of having done sales, but without a system, you are not serving your purpose very well. What advice can you give to other salespeople? And what are those opportunities they can look out to create such systems? Like this website, okay, maybe if you are lucky, but are there other opportunities that are out there for people create systems so that they can stop doing sales manually? They have a system that can manage their clients well, efficiently. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Safari, for that question. Great. Brian, I'll hand back to you, then we'll have another round after that.
All right. Yeah, so the questions were quite many, but I'll just answer them as I recall. Thank you, Safari, for that. First, I will answer the one that asked about the tech gaps. So it is, I'll give you a very simple way to predict the future. Especially here for like Uganda. One is think through lines of efficiency. If they ask you, would you want more efficiency in the future? That's a yes. And so that means in whichever sector or whichever service, if you have a solution that creates more efficiency, then there's room for you. and everything can be optimized and every process can be made more efficient. So that's one way. And for us, those are the same questions we asked ourselves at the start. Will people desire more price in the future, a better pricing in the future? And that's 100%. People will always want a better pricing for the product. And with more information coming now, people can access all this information on prices everywhere. So businesses that, if you can improve your pricing, that means there's an innovation for you to do in the future. Selection. Do you want just a few options, or you will need a big selection for you to make a very good decision? You need a big selection. So if you can organize data and information in such a way that the customer gets all sufficient information to make a decision, there is something for you in the future. So you will notice that those 3 lines, and maybe the other one that I'm now very excited about is the excitement of the business. People now, like I told you, people are tired of problems and just waking up to live an ordinary life. People want something exciting. People want to travel. People want to get onto a meaningful project. If you're an architecture firm or an engineering firm, it's not okay that every other year you're just building the same 3, 4, 5-story building. How about we put up the tallest building in Africa here in Kampala? So things like that are going to get people. Yeah. So that's how you can see the gaps in innovation. And when you look at those lines, efficiency, selection, price, all of that, you'll find that almost everything can be disrupted. If it's transport, if it is sending mobile money, can you create a solution that will make mobile money cheaper than what the rates are right now? We see it lightly, but you'll find in a day you're losing about 5,000, 10,000 just because of sending money. And yet this money is staying in an online, like environment. That means there's still room for innovation there. Excitement. I think it's time for excitement for Africa. All we've been up to has been handouts and challenges and I think Africans now need to take on the exciting things to really get as many people involved. So those are lines that you can use across any industry. You can disrupt really. Regarding, there was a question really on operations and challenges. I think these will always be there. And for me, my part as CEO is to always make sure we keep optimizing. I keep telling the team we have such a great product because every additional user on our platform adds more value to it. Every single improvement we make adds more value to it. Collectively just keeps building. We improve one booking process. That means the customer is going to have a better experience when checking out, when booking the experience or home or activity. And so those are the challenges we have, but I'll tell you mainly, I think the biggest challenge that we experience is attitude from the team. But otherwise, I think we are wired to be problem solvers. So I can't point out exactly a big challenge because every other thing that we get will commit to solving it. So attitude, especially when we get like the new teams to join us and you find that they don't want to think out of the box. They're very entitled. Some of them join us thinking we're a travel company, so they expect trips every now and then. So really just changing that attitude of, hey, we have to actually do the work for us to get return. And that is a principle. There is no one who has never gotten return out of doing the work. So that could be one of the challenges we see really regarding people. And then, sorry, let me just look into the chat to see the other questions. I don't know, Ronald, if you can.
I think we have one from. We had one about what types of tech businesses are suitable for the African continent, and that's what you haven't addressed.
So tech kind of businesses. I don't know if I get the context of that question, but it's what I was sharing, that with innovation, almost every sector here can be you can do innovation in almost every sector if you think through those lines of efficiency, because almost every industry has gaps when it comes to delivery times, when it comes to excitement, when it comes to price. So with that, really, you can innovate in almost every industry. But there's tech opportunity, of course, in AI, all these technologies that have come. And what I can say about them is, as humans, we are users, we are tool users, yeah? The context I can give here is when you put man to run against, let me say, an animal, probably a cheetah is faster than man. If you put them against a dog, the dog is probably faster than man. So you will find man ranks very low compared to these body capabilities. But if you can enhance man's capabilities by using tools. So when you give a man a bike, he will be faster than a cheetah. If you give him an aeroplane, he will fly longer than than an eagle, than all those things. So these technologies that are coming our way are meant to enhance our capabilities, and so we have to embrace them and use them because they make us almost like superhumans. Today you can talk to someone in America. That was impossible back then, but because of that tool of the phone, you're able to do that. So if you use that perspective in applying tools in your business, they definitely will create the magic. Yeah. How can Tubayo partner with a chain of 4 schools for purposes of helping them grow their brand? So how I think about growing brand, it is in 2 ways. You grow a brand based off awareness and trust. So awareness is many people getting to know about your brand, but trust is really how people feel about it. And you can do this with association. So associating with a platform like Tubayo will give you that element. For example, it's youthful, it's innovative. So as a school, you get to tap into that part of your brand. If you partner with like a big personality in community, let me say a bishop, let me say sheikh, like someone big, that can create trust for your brand. So those are strategies you can use. If it's awareness, then go into the influencers who have the numbers to back it up. Partnering with like Bettina, who has like 1 million followers, Zari, people will get to know about you. But if you want to build trust, then go in for the values that you stand for, the people that represent that. You can easily tap into that trust for your brand. It's really 2 ways. You want to make sure people resonate or attach certain values onto your brand, and you have to be very, very intentional on that. Let me see another question here.
Yeah, I think we had one down there. I wanted to also give Joshua an opportunity to ask. I think he has his hand up. Joshua, please go ahead.
Okay. Thank you so much. Good morning, Brian, and good morning, Ronald. My question, I wanted to find out, Tubayo, just like any other online probably apps and businesses, how do we leverage the incomes? Because most of us would want to go into it, but the part of actualizing and getting the incomes out of the online platform, since you said it eliminated the middleman, like your processes eliminated middleman. How do I leverage that? You can just probably just help us appreciate that if you're doing online, this is how you can actualize these incomes too. As Tubayo, do you also offer support to prospective startups that would want to start up and maybe through the whole journey? Do you also do that? Thank you.
Okay. First on supporting and working with people, I'll give you an inner strategy that we have at work. This year we aim to partner with over 100 companies, and it doesn't matter if it's small or big, and for us it's our way of penetrating community. So working with startups, the work that we do, we soon realize that it's beyond us, and this is something that we like to pay forward as well. we have been so lucky. There's been so many people that have showed us the way. Our first funding of $15,000, we were invited, we were spotted out and invited, come and apply for this. We had no connection to those people, you know? So they opened up for, and we got that money, which helped us during COVID. So we are very open. We encourage startups. I don't know any other company that has really worked with as many startups as we have, and actively with great accountability to the impact that we have on them. So we are really open to that. You can always reach out. We can create a product together. We can create a campaign together. We can really share on something. And so we're open even to partner with as many more businesses, because the future is about partnerships, which still feeds into the whole efficiency, the whole working together to bring different knowledges together. You can't do it alone now. It's going to be very, very hard. I don't care whether it's Mukwano. In the future, if we joined as 100 people, we will have more capacity than any of those big companies. And we've seen it. Just like today, when we join with the hosts, we have more accommodation than Sudil and Serena and Sheraton combined, you know, because we've joined with other people that everyone puts their listing on our platform. Today, we have the biggest selection of small businesses on our platform, because we've provided this to the small business owners to provide, to list their products, you know, so that's what joining can do. And then the other question on incomes. So I think first principle on business is a business is supposed to earn money. That is, I think, taught in P4. And then even when we start doing entrepreneurship, the core is a business has to make money. So, and this is something that Ugandans know and do every day. I know so many who start small businesses, they have no structures, but they just know that I want to start my retail business, I want to sell clothes, but if I buy it at 10K, I want to sell it at 20K. Ugandans know this so well. You know, Chikubo, that's all they know. Just make off the difference. That is it. Before you even complicate with so many principles, so many models, so many first is understanding that you have to make money. So if I get online, ask yourself, where are you going to make the money when you get here? You know, and then just focus on those advantages. I don't know if that really answers you, but money is a good thing. And even as a team, we encourage earning money. There's no way we're going to do things. Of course, there's these models that you build for scale fast to disrupt, but that would be okay if you have money that can back up those ambitions, and then you win long term. But money is a good thing. You need to charge for your service. You need to charge for your products, make that money, pay the team, reinvest, provide a service, and so on. So Tubayo has several models that we apply. Our revenue model on the homes is different from that on the events, because we also do ticketing for events. It is different from that of the Tubayo stores, which is a platform for businesses to list, create storefronts, have a dashboard to manage their inventory, manage their sales, manage their profits. Our business model off there is also different. And yeah, we have so many really that we are currently working with. And then there's a question here on taxation. Yes, so the thing about tax, first, I am a spiritual person, so I go by the principles in the Bible. I think there is so much knowledge in there. The first thing that Jesus talks about is give Caesar what belongs to, give Caesar, I think, what belongs to them. That's the tax. So one, you have to appreciate that you have to contribute to government, because you are not alone in this environment. Yeah. It's just like goodwill, really. So just like you make money, you pay the team, you don't just make money and keep it away from the team, you eat it alone. It is also goodwill that when you make money, you have to put some in government, because government takes care of so many things that are enabling your business. You know, things like infrastructure, security. There's so many things that government takes care of. And if you do your thing really well, those are the unseen forces that really make a business thrive. So our approach to taxation, we are open to it. We file our returns. And these things are really very clear. And for me, how I see this stuff is I ask myself, if the companies I want to be like, are they paying the taxes? For example, I want to build a company as big as MTN. Is it paying the taxes? Of course it is. Is a company as big as which other big brands here? Airtel, Moko. Are they paying? Yes, they are paying taxes. And then are there provisions for you where you probably need your money as investment for you to have those tax holidays? Those provisions are there. It is you as a CEO to go ahead and find out how to get some of those to work for you and buy you time as you invest. And these policies are very fair, like across. So that is our simple thinking regarding taxation. The issues we have around taxation are basically not understanding it so well. So we use tax consultants to really help us out on that front. Then there was a question on raising capital. I think the most important capital is that from the customers, the sales that you make. That's where most of the capital that we've used really to operate Tubayo. Though now we recognize we need to raise, but the environment in which we're working in has expensive capital in my thinking. So you find that people want returns of over 25%, 20% per year. So you really try to now measure the risk, compare. If it's going to be a reckless decision, then you don't do it. But if it's a risk that you can handle, then you go ahead and do it. But we are also considering raising. At first, we've been surviving off the grants, but that was in 2019. Like I told you, we've only had one, but most of it has really been our revenues and growth. And there are so many ways to raise money. Either you can join in with friends and you raise the first bunch that can take you for a couple of months. Then two, there are venture capitalists around. If your business is so good and it has returns that can cover their interests, then many people are willing to give you the money. And the thing about money is, one, are you going to pay for its interest? So if you can answer that question, I think raising money can't be a challenge. Yeah, I don't know if there's any other question I've missed.
I think there was a quick one on, I think it's from Christopher, who said, I have understood the power of the internet. For us who are doing small enterprises in villages, how can we use the internet to boost our businesses? I think you can quickly touch on that and we can possibly have one final round.
Okay, so one is recognizing that the internet is the future. Yeah. And so with that, like I mentioned, it's going to come with challenges, of course. Your customers won't adapt easily. Your team won't adapt easily, but you have to be stubborn, because if it's something for the future, you do it anyway. That is one way to help you make a decision. Ask yourself if it's for the future or not. So one is recognizing that your business needs an internet presence, it needs an internet kind of operation, and then you start to do it. Of course, the context of Uganda and the Western world is very different, and that's why you need like a hybrid system. So keep operating the way you're doing, but invest time and create the other arm of the business online, because it won't matter how many rooms you have in your office, people want efficiency. Whether you're employing 100, 200 people want efficiency. So that's what I can say to you, is just to embrace the thought and the idea that that the internet is really the way. And you can simply start up by, there's another way around internet. So you can do things like shared economies. So for example, if you have a cab business, instead of you creating your own website and you don't have the capacity to build that, you could simply list on Uber. So now you have access to the Uber customers, So if you're a retail business, you can list on Tubayo, you can list on Jumia. So that could be the first way for you to get started on the internet. Look out for these shared economies, the shared platforms. have social media presence, and then, then later the things in operations, things like systems, should be able to help you navigate all of that. How best can I position myself for a grant as a startup, and how best can I get the venture capitalist? So one way for this is look around for an environment that has grants going on. For example, now if you need a grant, you should be around Outbox, around the NSSF, around MasterCard. I'm telling you, go around there, 6 months, you will have figured out what they need. And they are still calling on people because they're supposed to give out more than $15 million. And I think they've given out just over $3 million. So there's a whole other $10 million to give out. So about grants and capital, it is everything. Actually, I think everything in life is around the environment. Whatever you need, ask for the environment that has what you need and get into that kind of environment. You'll get, if it's capital, if it's talent, if it's market, just make sure you're in the right environment that has the things that you need.
Super, super, super. Great.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Super. Great. Such powerful, powerful insights. I think, Brian, what you have done for us today is demystified this area which many of us know is important, but I still feel like many people kind of assume it will go away. But as you have said, it is the future. Technology is the future, and all of us in one way or the other, we need to be able to put ourselves out there as people who are ready and willing to be able to make use of this big opportunity. Thank you so much for today, Brian, for sharing with us. We are very, very honored by your submission you shared from your heart. That is clear. And really, we are excited about the possibilities. I encourage each and every one of you to follow Tubayo. Brian has shared the links in the chat box. Go out there and support, tell a friend about the business which they do, him and the colleagues who have built Tubayo. And Brian, we're very proud of you. We're very proud of what you have done, what you have made possible. I know many young people look up to you and say, now this is possible. And once it's done, it means it can be done. A big thank you to everyone who has joined us today. Thanks for listening. Go out there, spread the word. I know many of us in our households, we have young people who are interested in tech, and sometimes, especially the older generation, you catch yourself dissuading them to run into that direction because possibly in one or the other, you also don't fully understand it. But what Brian has done, what his colleagues have done, what many young people have managed to do is evidence that it is possible. So a big thank you and have a lovely, lovely week. We look forward to more. Brian, I'll let you just make your final remarks in a minute or two, and then we can wrap up the session.
All right. Very excited for and proud of each one of you guys that has, been on the call till now. Thank you. I know my story is not different from so many of you. We have some different contexts, but yeah, if you're to pick up something, it's a story of like courage, possibilities. So I encourage all of you to, those who have dreams, work on them, multiply. There is God who really does make things work out easily for us. But to conclude, follow Tubayo, download the Tubayo app. That way you could get to see our services. But also I want to invite you to, if you make time over the weekend, come by the Tubayo Market Day. It is happening at Motive in Bugolobi. It's a great space with several businesses. It's a good environment for you to be in, looking at several creators, people making money. The energy really, I invite you all to come around. We have a target to hit 1 billion in sales for one day. This is something you can, come and be a part of, contribute to. Maybe you have businesses that may want to exhibit. You can come and see how the others have done it. But yeah, God bless you guys. God bless your businesses. God bless your work. Your work is needed for your communities, for the country, for the continent. And so we all have to work really, really hard to play our part in creating a very meaningful community. Thank you, Ronald. Thank you, Enterprise Uganda. This is such a big, big opportunity for myself and for Tubayo. We are very grateful. Kindly feel free in case you have any way you would need us to be a part. Would really love that. Thank you so much. God bless you guys.
Great. Thank you so much, Brian. It's been an honor having you here. Thanks for honoring us with your time. From here at Enterprise Uganda, the entire team, a big thank you to you for sharing with us, particularly Derek, who linked me up to you. Derek is the man behind who does our back office, really. Most of these sessions, he has been listening keenly, but he says hello. But a big, big thank you to each and everyone who has joined us today. We look forward to more engagements. We'll be back next week with the business recovery series every Thursday at 9 o'clock. All the best. Keep winning, keep pushing, and don't give up. All the best.